Now the question is that, okay, I'm going to start this blog, but then what is the angle of this blog? What, this is what we all look for. Is how are we going to differentiate this blog? And so I decided that if there's one thing I feel passionate about, it's the fact that we are so overloaded with information that unless you can kind of distill it down, boil it down to one page, it's not going to get read. So I decided I would call my blog the one-page blog, and I registered it at the domain name HsuTube.com, which is a play on my last name and the word YouTube, so I thought that would be clever. So that's what I did. I started off by making one-page summaries of various IP, I'm an IP lawyer, IP and legal topics, so here's a summary of intellectual property that I made with one-pager. Here is one that I did on a patent licensing checklist that I put together. Here is, and I tried other things too. I ran a New Yorker-style cartoon caption contest. A friend of mine actually drew this cartoon for me in law school, and I ran this caption contest. I think the winner was something like, well, the coroner says so, but we're appealing his decision. So I did that for the first year or so, and it was fine, and it was running along. And then in 2012, I saw this terrific TED Talk, which I'm sure many of you have seen, by Sal Khan. And he does these terrific set of videos that you've probably seen where he teaches algebra and various science topics to his nephew or something, or I forget what it was, but they're really neat videos. And what really was interesting to me about these videos was not so much the content, although the content is terrific, but the fact that he uses such little technology and he does it so simply. He doesn't use any fancy CGI graphics, no computer animation. In fact, on his website he says that all he uses is a $60 Microsoft tablet. He just gets on it, starts drawing, narrates it, and goes. And in fact, one of the neat things about the reason he does it that way is because he wants to reach every corner of the world with his instruction. And so the idea is you could actually do it with a blackboard, you can go to some place that doesn't have electricity, and so forth and so on. So I was really inspired by this. And I said to myself, well, gee, can I do something like this? Can I make some videos that would explain IP and legal topics? But I thought to myself, I said, the problem is I can't draw if my life depended on it. And that's when I decided that I would recruit my 13-year-old daughter to help me. So we started off with simple equipment. Now when I say simple, I mean simple, okay? We used a Canon SureShot. I got a tripod with a boom extension, and I took my daughter's MacBook Pro and learned iMovie on it. And here's what we did. I mean, literally, this is what we did. I went to my home office. She would sit at a desk. She would sit there and draw the things. I had the tripod over the desk and the camera, and I would just shoot it. And the way we did it was, she would draw a topic that I was going to talk about. Here's one on IP ownership, and I'll show you the video later. She would draw it, and then I would narrate over it, then I would record my voice, narrate over it, and then do a simple video on it. Here's one we did on M&A, buyer and seller. You can see these actually, they're on YouTube. And what's kind of funny about this one here, I mean, literally this one, you can see this is actually just done on a piece of graph paper that I had lying around my home office. And the reason it was so like this is because I really didn't think anything would come of this, so I really didn't pay a lot of attention to it. Now, so I made a set of these videos, and there was some moderate interest and all that, but there were sort of three big limitations about these videos. And the first limitation was the fact that since I was just shooting her drawing this thing and I would narrate it, nobody ever got to see me. So I thought, well, gee, that may be something to be fixed. I'd have to get some professional to shoot me. That was problem number one. The second problem was that because we were just using a simple piece of paper, a very simple camera, no fancy technology, nothing like that, if my daughter made a mistake, she would literally have to start all over again, which really made it very complicated. But then the interesting thing about that was the fact that it forced us to keep everything on one page, because we couldn't do anything elaborate with multiple shuffling papers and all that, but then that fit very nicely to my whole one-page blog feed, so that kind of worked out. But the third thing that was the problem, and actually is the reason that we ended up doing something else, which I'll get to in a second, was because the camera was shot overhead, you saw the camera that was over the desk, when my daughter was drawing the figures, there was this really bad shadow, so you couldn't see very well what she was drawing, and that was sort of a limitation. So that's when I decided that I would go and contact a professional studio and see what we could do. Now, I'd never done this before, and I found a studio in San Francisco. Some of you may have heard of them. They were referred actually by Adam. I called Adam, I said, who do you know? And I found a studio called Beyond Pix. Maybe some of you know it's in San Francisco, right here on Jackson Street. And they had this really cool translucent table that they had built. And you can see there on the left that basically by having the light shine from underneath the table, you wouldn't get that shadow problem that we have. So this is here we are setting up the studio. There's my daughter doing the drawings. And here we are, basically we did the exact same thing. The thing that was sort of funny is that she had been used to drawing on this, 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. Now she was drawing on this big 3 feet by 4 feet, plastic canvas, so it was a lot more difficult. We ended up shooting, so we basically took one whole day and we shot 6 videos that were about between 90 seconds and 3 minutes. And we did it all on one Saturday, the whole shoot was all done on one Saturday. And it was, it was really a pretty fun experience. I mean, it was, not only did it came out pretty good, you'll see a little bit of it, I'll show some clips of it, but it ended up being just like a really nice father-daughter day. So that was something that I totally was not expecting, but ended up really being nice. And then here you can see the difference, the drawing that was done before, and then now the drawing that was done much later. And so the videos have gotten some very nice presses, and I'm very appreciative of all the people that have mentioned it. Lloyd Pearson wrote a nice piece about it. Greg Lambert, who runs 3 Geeks of Law blog, many of you probably know these blogs, wrote a nice piece about it. Deborah McMurray, who I think is speaking here, I've actually never met her, she spoke. And Daniel Pink even wrote this very nice tweet about a left brain lawyer using his right brain. Check out HsuTube.com. Okay, so now I'm going to show a clip of it. It's actually edited slightly, so it's not quite so long, but you'll get the feeling of it.
Today, with the help of my 13-year-old daughter, I'd like to talk about IP ownership in a typical joint development agreement. This is probably one of the thorniest provisions in any kind of technology development or collaboration agreement. Not because it's that complicated, but it is one of the most heavily negotiated provisions. Hi, Maya.
Hi, Dad.
Would you like to help me explain IP ownership in a joint development agreement?
Sure, Dad. Sounds like an easy topic to explain.
To set the stage, assume that employee 1 works at company 1 in technology field A. In addition, employee 2 works at company 2 and is working in technology field B. Suppose company 1 and company 2 decide to enter into a joint development agreement. How should IP ownership be divided? The third possibility is called what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours, and what's ours is ours. In this scenario, if employee 1 solely invents something, it is solely owned by company 1. If employee 2 invents something, it is solely owned by company 2. If employee 1 and employee 2 jointly invent something, it is then jointly owned by company 1 and company 2. The problem with this approach is that company 2 can potentially be blocked from doing something in its own field B if company 1 invents some IP using what it learned from company 2. So to solve this problem, company 1 will exclusively license its rights back to company 2 in field B, and company 2 will exclusively license its rights back to company 1 in field A. And that is how IP ownership is typically structured in joint development agreements. Thanks for your help, Maya.
You're welcome, Dad. Your job seems pretty simple.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
One of the funny things about I've gotten a lot of really nice emails about it and how terrific it is and stuff. But one email that kind of leaps out of my mind is somebody emailed me and said, what kind of fancy pen technology do you use to do this? And I was like totally embarrassed to say, well, it's just a dry erase marker. You can get it off Office Depot, So it's kind of funny. Just sort of what's next? Well, I have sort of 3 problems. One, as my wife has pointed out to me numerous times, your daughter's not going to stay 13 forever, so that's one problem. The second problem is that not all legal ideas are conducive to this format. I happen to come up with 6 of them that I think are pretty good. I'm actually shooting this Saturday one other set. that I'm going to make 5 single-minute videos, but they can also be compiled into one longer 5-minute topic. So, we'll see how that goes. And then the third problem is my daughter actually told me, she said she's going to retire after this, so but anyways, I appreciate you listening to the story, and and thanks for listening.